Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and today we're going to be doing a very special video to celebrate us getting 50,000 subscribers. We owe everything to you guys, and I always try and do something special whenever we hit a big milestone like this. So, let's see, what would be something special our fans would enjoy? It's got to be something big, something that's been talked about for a long time on our channel. Wait. Oh, no, it can't be. Oh, no. Story of nightmares and terribleness. The worst Spider-Man story ever. The White Whale.
That's right, today we're reviewing One More Day as a team effort. I'll be doing the recap.
So I have to do the review? No. If we're doing this, at least we're gonna do something new and different from every other channel that's reviewed this piece of crap. This, let's see here, we got some of these, and let's see, we got some of this, and there we go. This is the One More Day drinking game.
Are you sure about this? I kind of like this channel to be something everybody can enjoy at all ages, and we certainly don't want to encourage reckless drinking.
No, shut up! I need this, and this is fake booze. Here, let me just open up this seal on this fake booze and take a sip here. Yup, definitely fake booze. I am an excellent actor. Oh, that stuff is strong. Besides, it'll be fun. We just have to do a disclaimer.
Okay. The One More Day drinking game is intended for satire only. Side effects of playing the One More Day drinking game include injury, death, alcohol abuse, physical dependence, suicidal thoughts, and a tendency to hate a character you once loved. Do not play the One More Day drinking game.
Now let's play the One More Day drinking game.
So, are there like rules or?
There is only one rule. You will go about recapping the story, and I'll take a drink every time I need to. Now, play along at home, kids!
Do not play along at home, kids. You know, I'm already regretting that I agreed to do this.
As you should. Now let's get started, disembodied voice that may or may not exist entirely in my head.
Our story
Wait, I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. First of all, I'm gonna go ahead and take a drink just to get ready. Trust me, I'm gonna need it just to preserve my sanity. Next, you need to set the stage by explaining the lead-up and the context to this comic. This wonderful, wonderful comic.
Oh, okay. So the idea is that there was this civil war between Captain America and Iron Man. The whole thing had to do with some superhero registration act, which was created after, let's call it 9/11. Under this new law, heroes were being forced to register and work with the government. So Steve Rogers led a rebellion against Tony Stark. Peter Parker played a major role in all of this as an early supporter for the Registration Act, publicly revealing his identity and serving under Tony Stark to help catch fugitive superheroes. Aunt May and his wife Mary Jane supported his decision. However, Peter became disillusioned with the pro-registration side after learning about a secret prison in the negative zone for those that refused to cooperate with the government. He joined Captain America's side only for the fugitives to ultimately lose the war. Spider-Man went underground, but not before the Kingpin was able to use his now public identity to put a contract out for Parker's life, which led to Aunt May being badly wounded. Well,
what?
I figured you'd be upset by this point. Honestly, I'm surprised I talked for this long without you interrupting me.
Oh, well, it's not so bad yet. I actually have no problems with any of the stuff leading up to this story. I mean, it all kind of makes a lot of sense to me. Peter Parker made a decision and there were consequences, but he acted according to what he thought was best at the time and as a true hero. Yeah, it's tragic what happened to Aunt May, but actions have consequences. This could have been a strong lesson to Peter Parker and could have really changed him forever. He made some decisions and, one way or another, some mistakes along with them. But he took responsibility for them. He owed up to being on the wrong side of a fight and tried to make up for what he felt was wrong. That is Spider-Man. So far, all of this Civil War stuff worked. It fit with Peter's character, and it really changed things for him as well. He was outed now. This was a big deal. Like, the public knew that he was Peter Parker. And that could have led to a very interesting period for Peter, where his identity was public knowledge and he was a fugitive, living on the run with Mary Jane or something. So all of this worked. So far. And don't worry, Marvel is about to screw everything up, but the events leading up to this weren't all that bad from my perspective. Certainly they weren't the worst Spider-Man story out there.
But what about the part where Parker breaks into prison to threaten the Kingpin if Aunt May dies?
Oh, right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that part. Cheers to that. And that's the first sign of trouble right there. This little gem of a moment is from the Spider-Man Back in Black miniseries, and this story deals with the fallout of Aunt May getting shot. Back in Black is a terrible comic as well. Rather than, say, take responsibility for his actions, Peter basically goes berserk. He becomes hellbent on revenge, dressing in his black suit to show off how edgy and dark he now is, and nearly kills Wilson Fisk. And the problem with this is these aren't mistakes Peter will learn from, but rather they're treated like the appropriate reaction to a loved one dying. There's so much wrong with that, and all these actions really grate against Peter's established character and persona. I mean, this is Spider-Man we're talking about, and this is not responsible behavior. And I get it, he's Looney Tunes with grief right now, but we know Peter has dealt with loved ones dying a lot better than this in the past. Everyone knows this. And what, Aunt May is special relative to Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, or Uncle Ben? No, I don't buy that for a second. Especially when we're talking about Uncle Ben. That's like an integral element to his character, and he reacted in a lot more positive a way with Uncle Ben's death. He became Spider-Man because of that. So, whatever, I'm just gonna take another drink. Well, 3 in, and we already haven't gotten to the actual story. This feels ominous.
Okay, can I actually start narrating the story now?
Yeah, I guess. I just gotta do one more thing before we get to the actual story, to get, in the right mindset and get myself all prepped.
Our story begins...
Alright, time to stop you again. There are a lot of problems with this story, and the first thing we need to get out of the way is the art. Joe Quesada was the illustrator of this comic. Some of you might know that this guy is one of the most hated figures in all of the comic book industry, but I actually don't hate the guy's work on this comic overall. There are 2 things I really admire about this comic. First, that he did the art at all shows how dedicated this guy was to the story and how much he believed in it. See, Quesada wasn't just the artist. At the time of One More Day, he was editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics. It was his idea to do this story, and he really, truly believed in it. Like One More Day or not, that shows dedication, and I think we can all at the very least respect that. He had no other reason to do this except for the fact that he really thought it was the right thing to do with Spider-Man. So props to him on that. Like, having an editorial person who believes in something so much really shows dedication, and that he, at the very least, went about this story with the right idea in heart. The second thing I like about his work on One More Day is that I have to admit a lot of these panels do look really good. There's some pretty cool imagery in this comic, and I do enjoy it quite a bit. But for every good panel, there's also a lot of ones I just don't like. Personally, I see a lot of elements that are heavy on style to the point of being distracting, and there's a lot of weird choices made with the posing and framework of a lot of the panels. So even though there are some elements I like regarding Quesada's art, I will drink to the mediocre job overall. Yeah.
Our story begins...
You're doing a great job so far! Our story begins...
Our story begins with Peter being forced to come to Tony Stark for assistance. He asks for financial aid to help Aunt May, but Iron Man states Parker is a fugitive. If Peter turns himself in, then May can be given the best medical help available. But if he doesn't, there is nothing that Tony can do. Peter refuses and leaves.
Alright, here we go. So we're all clear that it is kind of important that Peter Parker behave in a responsible way, right? I know his aunt is badly wounded and all, but come on, with great power comes great responsibility. Remember, Peter, how that was one of the last things Uncle Ben ever said to you? It's kind of an important part about being Spider-Man? Well, how come Peter doesn't turn himself in right here and right now? This would ensure the best possible outcome for his aunt, and it would let Parker own up to his actions. That would be the responsible thing to do, right? But no, we can't do that, because then Peter wouldn't still be Spider-Man, or at least not the Spider-Man we know. I mean, personally, I think it would have been really cool if Peter was in government custody for a while. Maybe he'd have to survive in prison, or perhaps they could put him on the Thunderbolts team. That would have been really interesting and totally new, so obviously this story doesn't do anything like that. In the end, Tony does wind up helping Aunt May anyways, and covers all her medical expenses indirectly through Jarvis. See, Stark is still a nice guy after all this, unlike a certain little brat in this story. And that's the biggest problem of One More Day, something that drives me nuts. Peter Parker is a whiny and irresponsible idiot who refuses to do the right thing time and time again. Throughout this story, I feel like I'm supposed to root against Spider-Man because he's so out of character and refuses to acknowledge that he's being an asshole. I'm just gonna go ahead and drink again.
Peter then goes to Doctor Strange to ask for help, but the Sorcerer Supreme is unable to do anything.
Okay, and why? Doctor Strange is a very powerful magician who's accomplished far greater feats in the past. But because that'd be inconvenient to the story, Steven suddenly can't do anything here, and we just are expected to accept that this really powerful character can't reverse a gunshot wound. That's like, so stupid, annoying, and useless. Why bother to include a scene like this if it's not going to make any sense? All this does is frustrate readers like me, who know better, and cement how forced this story is. This isn't something the writers naturally arrived at. It was the idea of Joe Quesada in an attempt to reboot Spider-Man and bring him closer to what he used to be. And it is painfully obvious when you're doing stuff like this. Alright, where is it? Here we go. God, he doesn't do this with any other characters, does he?
Doctor Strange is able to help Peter a bit by allowing him to ask for the help of others, including Dr. Doom, the High Evolutionary, Reed Richards, and Dr. Octopus, but nobody can help him. Parker then attempts a spell to go back in time in spite of Doctor Strange's protest, but is badly injured in the process. Strange heals Parker's wounds and tells him that if nothing else can be done, he should go to the hospital to be with his aunt in her final moments.
Hey guys. Guess who's feeling a little tipsy now? Alright, so there's a few things wrong here. First, Peter tries to use time travel to solve his problems. What? Oh yeah, sure, Peter. I'm sure that won't have any insane consequences. Alright, well, I'll get that out of the way. Dumbass. Second, how the hell was Doctor Strange able to heal Peter but not Aunt May? Oh, I know the reason they gave in the comics, that this was one injury caused by magic and the other was not. But not only is that stupid as hell, that's also in direct contrast to the rules of magic as I know them in the Marvel Universe. So we'll take a drink to that too. Third, this scene where Peter goes to have his last little moment with Aunt May reminds me that this has already happened twice now. Yeah, Aunt May has already died at least 2 or 3 times depending on how you count it. It was handled masterfully in Spider-Man number 400, a little comic called The Gift that still is one of my favorite all-time Aunt May moments. And since then, it's lost a lot of dramatic weight to me. I feel like The Gift is this well-written piece that fully expresses the relationship between her and Peter Parker. It was this beautiful, perfect send-off to the character that they did eventually retcon. And while I get why Marvel eventually did want to bring her back, it does mean that whenever they threaten her life again, I don't feel it much in terms of emotion. I've seen Peter react to her death in a much better way before than this stupid story, and it actually left an impact on me. So this whole underlying premise of Aunt May being on the verge of dead feels completely hollow and completely pointless. So, that's number 3. I'm gonna be sick.
So next, Peter heads to the hospital. On the way, he runs into a little girl. What?
Oh, nothing. I just hate this part. Also, what is this girl doing during this panel? I mean, is this how she's walking?
Seriously, this is what she looks like while walking!
Honestly, that is ridiculous to the point of being completely stupid. So cheers to that!
Anyhow, the little girl is no ordinary child. You doing alright over there?
Yeah, I'm fine. just fine.
Okay, so the girl says that Peter is selfish. He's self-involved and always puts his pain at the center of the universe. As long as he can go to sleep at night with a clear conscience, it doesn't matter who pays the price. The whole world has to answer for his pain, because Peter thinks that makes him big, it makes his revenge big, and it makes him feel big.
My point exactly! Cheers to that, random little girl! And what does Peter say to all of this? Well, those are awfully big ideas for a kid. I hate you, Peter Parker. Wait a minute, I don't hate Spider-Man. I love this guy.
So the little girl runs off. Peter chases after her only to find a middle-aged man sitting along on a park bench. The man says he is a software designer. He makes computer games. He goes on to state that guys like him gets into games to escape. We play as heroes because we want to be in a world like those. The way the world is supposed to be. But those places don't exist. Nothing is perfect, after all. But if he had powers, if he could be a real hero and change people's lives for the better, well, he'd be the happiest man in the world. But he'll never ask for anything else, because he wouldn't need anything else. He'd be grateful, because the rest of the world never gets a chance like that.
What is going on here? Is this comic criticizing itself for me? Alright, so if you're confused with this part, well, first of all, you are very right to be. Well, what's going on here, from what I gather, is that this is Mephisto taunting Peter about the decisions he's about to make. Honestly, this is probably the best part of the comic. It's weird and surreal and kind of reflects the whole atmosphere of Mephisto's presence sinking in here gradually. I kind of like this part. I think it reflects the talent of the writer J. Michael Straczynski, who actually had a pretty good run with the Spider-Man series on the whole. He left after this story and made things pretty clear that he wasn't totally happy with how One More Day turned out. Probably because he has a brain located in his head. Anyways, it's pretty clear that this is a writer who was handed an awful idea by Joe Quesada and was forced to make the best of it. You can tell he didn't like the idea or the changes it would bring to Spider-Man, but like a professional, he did the best he could. I don't blame him for a moment over this disaster in comics. Anyways, what happens next, Joey?
Peter is then approached by a man who offers him a ride in a futuristic vehicle. The man is rich and is a successful scientist, with 30 patents by the time he was 19. He made his first million that year, and 10 times that amount in the next year. Peter thinks that this man must be happy, but he is not. He lost the woman he once knew from high school, and that's all he ever wanted. He traded all for her. The man then takes Parker to meet a woman. She explains that the two men Parker just met were alternate versions of Parker if he had never become Spider-Man. One was resentful and hateful, while the other was rich and successful. But no matter what happens, no matter what he does, Peter Parker almost always ends up alone. Peter doesn't care, and asks about the girl, but the woman isn't ready to talk about her just yet. And it doesn't matter because Parker can't save Aunt May, but Mephisto can. The demon reveals his true form and offers Peter a deal. Parker assumes that his aunt can be saved at the cost of his soul, but Mephisto says that they stopped making that deal ages ago. A soul given for the life of another suffers righteously, knowing that they suffer to save somebody else. No, Mephisto wants a soul to suffer. He would do anything for the sound of a soul in pain.
Alright, it's at this point that I would like to remind you all that Spider-Man is supposed to be a hero grounded in technology. Magic's okay in his stories, but an insane amount of nonsense about souls and demonic preferences for souls is all just a bunch of nonsense. It really doesn't fit in with a Spider-Man story, especially one that's going to have a huge impact on his continuity. So, let's have another drink. Oh, starting to force it down now.
Mephisto asks if Peter would really do anything to save his aunt, and Spider-Man says he can't make that decision alone. The demon wouldn't have things any other way, and he takes Peter to Mary Jane, who he has given the same offer. Mephisto can and will save the life of their aunt. But he wants the love these two share. He wants their marriage.
You know, it's not like One More Day does one thing wrong after another. It does like 5 things wrong at once. First of all, hey MJ, nice to see you more than halfway through a story that is about you breaking up with Peter Parker. Second of all, Why does Mephisto care about their marriage? Oh, okay, I know the reason they give in the comics. That he wants to see them suffer. And nobody in the world loves each other quite like these two. Sorry, everyone who's ever been in a relationship. You guys don't love each other as much as Mary Jane and Peter Parker. That's special. It's special, so Mephisto likes it. Okay. I would like a reason for Mephisto to care about these two that makes sense. But since I'm not gonna get one, drinking time. And of course, this is all being done because the editorial team at Marvel thought it would be so important that Peter wasn't married to MJ anymore. I still, to this day, don't think that breaking these two up was that bad of a decision on its own. I like Mary Jane well enough, and I really liked these two when they were married. They worked together as a team and discussed big decisions beforehand and made choices together. But if Marvel really felt like this was the time to split them up, sure, fine, whatever. They have every right to do so, and maybe the writers felt really boxed in with the buried Spider-Man. If you want to change that, that's okay. I'm not against changing that. But can you not do it in such a stupid and off-putting way? Why can't they get a divorce? Why can't you show strain in their relationship that eventually leads to them splitting up? I know that's less like a comic book, but it would have made a lot more sense. It would have been a lot more realistic, and you could have characters deal with something that affects a lot of people and isn't often dealt with in comics. It could have worked. It really could have been interesting and changed how we see Peter Parker. This piece of crap, this doesn't do a thing. And, another drink to that. I don't feel so good.
At the hospital, Aunt May's heart fails her and she passes away. Peter wakes up in the motel room and finds MJ in the bathroom. Mary Jane is visibly distressed and asks Peter something. May lived a long and good life. Maybe it's just her time. What if the right thing would be to just let her go?
Yes! Of course that would be the right thing to do. Deals with devils are never, ever a good idea. And at the end of the day, it's Aunt May's time.
But Peter feels responsible for what happens to May. She didn't die a natural death. She was shot. If she dies because of Peter, it would break him in two, and he can't handle that loss. MJ doesn't want to be the cause of her husband facing this sort of grief, and doesn't want to be put in that position. But Peter insists that he could live with this if they make the right decision together.
Well, she shouldn't be put in this position. Peter is asking too much of his wife here. This is so ridiculous. Whatever. It's too much. I'm just going to drink. On what planet is this decision sane? You're going to bring your aunt back to life for what? 10 years? 20 years at best? At the cost of your future? What about your future children? I hate this so much. Like, so much. I don't understand why rage comes out of, like, a stupid friggin' comic that was originally invented for children. But somehow you've made me care for this character, and then you're going to just rake him across the coals. This isn't even fun anymore. I'm too drunk for this to care, and this is the worst idea ever. Okay, enough improv. Let's move on to the next part.
Peter and MJ sit in silence. It becomes clear what they must do. Peter tries to reminisce about their best times together. But MJ shushes him and has her just enjoy their shared company. One last time. Mephisto appears before them. Spider-Man's history will largely remain the same, but nobody will remember his identity. Peter and MJ will be broken up, and Aunt May will be saved.
Yeah, who needs character development anyways?
The two agree to the demon's bargain, and he begins to cast his spell. As he does so, he admits that he was surprised Peter never asked him about the little girl from earlier. He reveals that she is the daughter that the two will never have, all because Peter was determined to save Aunt May's life. Peter is enraged, but it is too late. MJ and Parker share one final kiss together, and everything goes dark.
You know what? I'm done. The drinking game is over. This is too much, even for me. You're a bad guy, Peter Parker. That little girl was right. You're selfish, and you think your grief is the center of the universe. You don't care who you hurt or what you destroy. You made a literal deal with the devil. And I don't care how sad you feel, you're being an idiot. You lost your daughter, to save your elderly aunt. That's just wrong. I'm sorry, but that is wrong. So very wrong. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not Peter Parker. This is the worst Spider-Man comic I have ever read. I hate him in this story. It ruins the character. And the worst part about all of this is that years later, it's all still canon. The whole thing is just rotten. It ruins Peter. Alright. We're gonna get through this. So when I first read this story, probably 7 or 6 years ago, we'll say, it made me want to give up on comics. It made me want to give up on Spider-Man for sure, because it's too much. You're asking us to take this leap with this character who's supposed to be responsible, who's supposed to care about other heroes. And instead he just chooses the stupidest decision. He makes a deal with Mephisto to just erase his decisions, to give it all up, just to save his aunt. Because Aunt May is somehow more important than his daughter, MJ. Because Aunt May needs to be saved. That's what matters, right? It doesn't matter that she's died a couple times before. It doesn't matter that she's kind of been fully developed. Doesn't matter that this could change Peter in a much more interesting way. Let's undo it all. Let's have her marry J. Jonah Jameson's father. Why not? That's more interesting, right? Let's have Peter Parker date Joe Quesada's daughter. Why not? That's more interesting than seeing them work together and do this totally new phase for Peter Parker's life. Let's give up. Whatever's familiar, right? Peter Parker is just a kid, and he's working to be Spider-Man, and he's gonna save the day from the bad guys. Let's just do the same thing over and over again. The only thing that consoles me about all of this is that I'm not the only one. One More Day is almost universally despised, and hopefully you can see why now. But this story sucks, and it should be obvious by now. It's the worst. I'm probably gonna throw up tonight, aren't I?
From the comic or the booze?
Both!
Okay then. Well, Peter wakes up to find that he is staying in Aunt May's house, and she is alive and well. He goes to a party with all of his friends, where it is revealed that Harry Osborn has also been returned to life.
Ooh! Let's win this character resurrection! Drink!
I thought you said the drinking game was over.
It's called alcoholism, Joey, and it is never over.
Peter greets his friends amicably, but Mary Jane leaves the party looking sad. Everyone else cheers to a brand new day.
Alright, we made it, and I'm still alive. Alright, I'm drunk, but I'm still alive. Yay! Well, I think I've said all I need to say about this comic. Overall, it wasn't the worst idea in the world to do away with the marriage between Parker and MJ. But it was executed so poorly that I just hate One More Day so much. I've never seen a story that does so much character assassination in such a short amount of time. Alright, whatever.
Alright, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Well, alright. I hope you guys enjoyed our special 50,000 subscriber video. And if you didn't, well, you can blame Drunky over there. It was his idea. Regardless, I want to thank you all so much for joining our channel. We hope to do this for a very long time, and are just so happy that we've gotten all of these viewers. You guys mean the world to us, and we are so pumped to bring you guys more content in the future. And finally...
Like, subscribe, comments, and keep reading the comments. Do not play the one more drinking game. That's all I have to say. Ugh. Seriously.